Hello class, we are on to 9.2 notes. I know they're a little covered and my focus will go in and out sometimes. We were on to 9.2, focusing on 45 triangles. And so, let's say we had a square, which is equilateral and equal angular. All same side are congruent, all the angles are congruent, and note that each block or square does mean 90 degrees. And so let's say I were to take a line and draw it diagonally, connecting my vertices, my two diagonal points. And so I'm left with X amount on all sides, and D I'm going to label as my diagonal. So anytime that you're involving a missing length is 45, 90 degrees triangle, you're going to label it this way because I took this part and I pretty much cut my 90 degrees in the corners in half. So my corners are 45, and then my last is 90. So we know how to use Pythagorean theorem as we did with 9.1. And so now I need to know, what am I going to do, if I have two missing sides, well, this side, I can find that side. But what if I just had angles only? What if I just had 45, and 90? How am I going to find my different side lengths? So anytime you have these, this is how you're going to label it. And you have X, and X square root of 2. Now where did that X square root of 2 come from? Well, it does derive from the Pythagorean theorem. And so let's say I wanted to take both of my sides, as we cut here. So I have X squared plus X squared is C squared, or our diagonal squared. Either way is fine, okay? And so I end up with 2x squared equals C squared, okay? And then I need to take the square root of both sides in order to find C. And so then I'm left with square root of 2 times square root of x squared. And we can't do anything with the square root of 2, but the square root of x squared is just x. So this is where I get x square root of 2 to give me C, which gives me the diagonal deriving from the Pythagorean theorem. So you have x, and your diagonal is x square root 2. So let's do a couple examples using this. So I know that my legs are going to be x square root 2. So this is x, and then I have x, and then I have x square root 2. Well, my legs are always going to be the same for this one. So that means AB is 5. And then I'm going to take my x value and multiply it by square root 2. So I really just have 5 square root 2. Because they're not the same, they're not both square roots. And so I'm just left with AC being 5 square root of 2. Okay? And so that's how you find some side lengths. Let's go on to a few more examples. On page 12. Now this started on page 11. We are now on page 12. Now I have a shaped differently for A, B, and C. My legs are still x, and then I have x square root 2 will equal where that 4 is. But however, I want to really just solve for x in order to get my sides. Because I know that AC, or my diagonal, is square root 2. Or x square root 2. So now I just want to find x. I want to find the side lengths. So this is where we talked about multiplying and dividing radicals. That's where this comes into play. So note how I wrote this when labeling sides. I have x square root 2 equal to 4. Well, now I'm going to solve for x. So I can divide square root 2 from both sides. But I can't have 4 square root 2. I cannot have 4 square root 2 on the bottom because I can't have radicals underneath there, so I'm going to multiply top and bottom by square root 2. So now I'm left with 4 square root 2. Square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is square root of 4, but we know square root of 4 is 2. And now I can simplify 4 over 2, which gives me 2. So 2 square root of 2 gives me x. So that, and x ends up being the same. So AB is 2 square root 2, and BC is 2 square root 2. Okay? Now let's go on to number 3. No, you can always pause at any moment. So 3, again, let's label our sides of x, x, and this is x square root of 2. And note, I want to solve for x. I want to solve for my legs. So note how I set up my equation. I have x squared root of 2 equals 3 square root of 30. And I'm solving for x, so I'm still going to divide because these are being multiplied together. Okay? And so now I'm left with 3 over square root of 30 over 2. Alright, but we stop with 3, but look at 30 and 2. Can't 30 and 2 divide into each other? Yes, they can. And so, 30 divided by 2 is square root of 15. So I have 3 square root of 15. And can 15 simplify? Well, no, it cannot. So remember, you can always divide before simplifying as well. So 30 over 2, square root of 30 of square root of 2 gave me square root of 15. Okay? So my legs are square root of 15, 3 square root of 15. Okay? Okay, let's move on to number 4. Number 4, again label, I have x on my legs, x is my other leg, and then I have x square root of 2. Okay. So we already know the other leg, because my legs are the same. So BC will definitely be 2 square root of 3. But now I need to find my hypotenuse. And so I'm going to take x, and it's being multiplied by 2. So x equals 2 square root of 3. That means x square root of 2 is really 2 square root of 3 times square root of 2. They're just being multiplied. So all I did is plug in 2 square root of 3 where this x was, and I have to multiply this on the inside. So I'm left with 2, because 2 times an imaginary 1 is just 2, and then I multiply my radicals. So square root of 3 times square root of 2 is square root of 6. So my hypotenuse is 2 square root of 6. Alrighty. So if you move on to the next page, we have page 13. Page 13, I have 45 triangles. This is your practice page. And so remember to label, your legs are the same with x, and we have x square root of 2. Okay, so for example, these are very similar to the ones we just had. AB we know is x, and CB is x, and we have x square root of 2. And it gave us that AB equals 7. And so that means CB equals 7, and I'm plugging in that 7 here, so that's really 7 square root of 2. So AC is 7 square root of 2, and CB is 7. Okay, so this is your practice page. You have page 13 and page 14. You have page 13, 14, and 15. They're fairly easy if you just label all parts of your triangle, and there will be times where you will be able to simplify as well as multiplying or dividing radicals. Alright, so you have page 13, 14, and 15 as your practice, and this concludes your notes. Thank you.